Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of Splatcast.
Wahoo.
I'm Rhett. We have with us Jace. And we have Anthony. Yeah, so this is going to be a weekly NBA podcast just covering stuff we were interested throughout the week, games we watched, storylines, etc., etc. This first episode is actually, of course, going to be kind of a precursor to the season. What we're going to do tonight is we are going to go through our predictions for the final standings for both the East and West conferences. Maybe we'll throw in some under and overs. I do have that information here in front of me. What I was thinking we would do, guys, is we will just start from the bottom. Okay, so we'll do 15th seed in the East, 15th seed in the West, and we'll progress that way up to the 1 seeds. Then on the next episode, the plan is going to be to talk about playoff bracket, eventual champion, and awards, final season awards. Okay, so first of all, we will start with the 15th seed in the East. Jace, do you want to kick us off with your 15th seed in the East?
Absolutely. So for my last place in the East and...
Oh, sorry.
What?
No, I was going to say, before you give your ranking, like, who are you? Where are you located? Why should we
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Listen to me. So, yeah. I'm Jace. I am currently living in Oklahoma City. I am a scout for Prep Hoops that covers high school and sometimes down to middle school talent across the state. I'm also a contributor for Draft Digest on Draft on SI. For that, I kind of cover international and college basketball players who could be playing in the upcoming NBA draft. And recently I've started working with Babcock Hoops, kind of doing the same thing, scouting. That's a new thing. Just started with Matt Babcock. Shout out. Super excited, Matt. But that's kind of who I am. Listen to me.
Good to know. Let's hear those picks.
Right.
Yeah, and okay. me and Anthony are just regular dudes. We're just putting on the show.
My dogs. Mm-hmm. My dogs. But jumping back over into my bottom of the barrel team, like I was saying, they're last place in the East for me, and I think will be last place in the league, and that's going to be the Washington Wizards. I think it's going to be kind of a race to tank for a lot of teams. And the Wizards, as we know, are one of the best at this. The big thing with them is they have Kyle Kuzma, who's, he's good at times. He's not awful, but Jordan Poole terrifies me. I think he's going to shoot him out of games super often. And, they had Alex Sarr from this past draft, unmoved, especially in year one. So I think that they're just empty, don't have a lot of talent, and they have pieces that they could still trade away. Like me and Rhett were talking about before the show started, Valanciunas, we think will probably try to be moved sometime throughout the year, but just not a lot of stuff going on in Washington, I don't think. I think it's going to be a rough year for him.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds good. I actually, I imagine the bottom of both of our conferences are probably going to look pretty similar. I actually have finishing last in the East. I have the Nets.
Wow.
Fairly uneventful offseason for the Nets. They did re-sign Claxton, who I'm a really big fan of. Added Bogdanovich in the Bridges trade with the Knicks. They added Killian Hayes on a 1-year deal, which is pretty interesting. Shake Milton was also a part of that. I think he was part of that Bridges deal, I'm pretty sure. And then Zaire Williams from the Grizzlies. Not obviously a ton of talent coming in. It's always really concerning to me. This is going to be a recurring theme for me as far as like the teams that are kind of at the bottom of both these conferences. They don't really have a point guard. Am I wrong? Like, it might be Cam Thomas as their starting point guard.
I think it'll be Cam Thomas,
which he has some pop. Scoring wise, he's just not a point. He's not a point guard.
Yeah.
And the reason I do. To the Wizards, Jace, I do think that the Nets right now, I think they have a slightly better roster than the Wizards do. But I also think guys like Cam, DFS are going to be pretty valuable when the deadline comes around. They should be traded. I think they probably will be traded. So they just have, they can really empty this thing out and really go for the tank. So, yeah, that's where I see them finishing bottom of the conference, bottom of the league, I think.
I like it. They're, I don't know, both of those teams, the Nets and the Wizards, I think it's going to be a big turnover year for both of them in terms of their roster, kind of retooling, trying to get guys to different situations. But both those teams, I think,
it's a good year to do it.
Right.
Right. Obviously, those two front offices haven't really had the best track record over the past few years or so, but it's a good year to be bad.
Sure.
There's a lot of talent coming in, which we'll talk about throughout the year, of course. But yeah, cool. Anthony, who you got last in the East?
I'm going to go with a different pick than y'all and pick the Detroit Pistons.
Great.
Classic.
Oh, wow.
Classic.
Okay.
Classic.
How many consecutive years has it been? Like the Pistons have been at the bottom.
It's been really bad.
Too many.
It's been really bad.
Too many.
The addition of Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to make them not the worst. Like, I don't know.
Well, Bickerstaff is the big thing for me, right?
Wait, say that again?
Isn't he the coach there now, Bickerstaff?
They did get a new coach.
No, I think that's right.
To me, it doesn't matter. Like, I think they're cursed. And they want to be bad.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see that. Like, that's not crazy.
Even though the Thunder lost in Detroit last year.
Is that all you had on the Pistons, Ant?
Yeah, like they'll get some people. Like they got
they did
last year, but
yeah, they did.
No, it's going to be really fun to see the teams tank this year, and I think they've mastered it better than everyone else. Will they get the top pick? Probably not. But yeah, I think they're going to be really bad as usual.
No, they probably won't get the top pick. Yeah. For Detroit, and this will kind of speed up as we go. I do think they tried to address like the spacing. Like it seemed apparent to me that they are like trying to make it easier on Cade, but it sounds like Anthony, for you, they maybe just weren't able to do that to degree to where it's going to matter this season.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like until like maybe Cade plays a whole season, doubtful. I just got to see it to believe it. He got to do deal.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he will. Maybe it'll get to a point where they don't want him to. I don't know. Certainly not a bad pick. Cool. Okay. Well, Anthony, let's move over to the West. Let's start with you in the West. Who's going to finish the bottom of the West?
Let me check. I got the Blazers. I don't even have much to say about them.
Blazers.
Let's see. Did they finish last year too?
Okay, well, I can jump in there. Did they finish last year? I don't even know. So this year, everybody, we're going to be paying a lot more attention, obviously, because we have the show now. I mean, we watch a lot of basketball, but we just kind of watch basketball. But we're going to be watching with a closer eye. We're going to keep up with this stuff. We're going to, check ourselves. I don't know if they finished last year, but they were they were near the bottom, obviously. But yeah, and I can jump in there because I actually agree with you. I have the Blazers finishing last in the West as well.
They one less game than the Spurs to be last in the West.
One last game than the Spurs. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with Anthony. I had the Blazers finishing last of the conference, and I just think it's going to be a rough start without Sharp. He's going to miss a few weeks, I think, with a shoulder or something like that. I also think they're going to move Simons this year. I think this is the year where that finally gets done. But the real thing I wanted to talk to y'all about with the Blazers that I thought was a little bit interesting was a Scoot situation. What are y'all expecting out of Scoot this year? Obviously, like, highly drafted guy, really good prospect, Jace, as you can attest to. What are we expecting from Scoot this year?
I would be more than happy to jump in here because I also have the Blazers picked as my last place in the West. I kind of think that they're going to go like all in with the Blazers or with Scoot.
Have to. I think you have to. Yeah.
And kind of, hope that he finds his way to like leading that team. I don't know if y'all remember whenever I watched Scoot play, whenever he was with the Ignite, they came to Oklahoma City. I went to scout that game in person. I don't know if I'd ever seen like a better prospect point guard. Like, he was just physically terrifying.
Dominant. Yeah. Dominant in that regard.
And like, I don't know. I know, playing in the NBA is a totally different level of like physicality, all of that. But I'm still a pretty big believer in him. I think he's going to figure it out. That's part of why I have him 15th. Is because I think that's going to be a pretty steep.
Oh, so we all had
curve.
Blazers last? Then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think he's going to be fine, but I don't know if it's going to be this year. I think it's going to lead to a lot of losses for him.
Do you have anything on Scoot?
No, I remember the days, when it was Scoot versus Wemby. And like those matchups were
Scoot
awesome.
Wemby. Yeah,
everyone
that
was
was
like,
awesome.
Wemby was not in the
that was
draft.
great.
Like, Scoot
Scoot would go one.
He deserves to be
I remember that too.
a number one pick in any other year. But last year, it was discouraging. Like he struggled. So it's not like this is it type of year, because he's still so young. But we'll see.
I agree, Anthony. This is not a make or break year for him. Yeah, so I'm using dunks and threes for this information. I like it's a fun way to compare players with that EPM stat, just general effectiveness. So I'm kind of mixed as far as like what y'all have said on him. I'm certainly not ready to give up on him yet. I do think we may have to start to kind of adjust our expectations for him as far as him being, a franchise saver, number one type of guy. So I've compared three players, and I'm mostly concerned with like their rookie year and what that may look like as far as a progression. So I've got Scoot, of course. I've got Darius Garland, and I've got Russell Westbrook. All around 6'2", 6'3" area. Garland is probably the best shooting prospect out of the three coming in. Is that accurate, you think, Jace?
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously Scoot wasn't projected as like a shooting guard. Neither was Russ when he was coming in. So in their rookie seasons, Russ was a minus 0.5 EPM in his rookie year. Garland was a minus 4.4 in his rookie year. Scoot was a minus 5.5. Okay, so obviously a pretty big gap between a guy like Russ, who obviously ended up, MVP, triple-double guy, Hall of Famer, great player. And then Garland, who obviously has struggled with injuries, et cetera, but he's a very good player, but he's probably not a number one guy on a competing team, right? So Scoot obviously had the worst rookie year out of the three of them. It looks like I would guess he's probably still on track to be closer to a Garland. Like I said, the number one guy may not be a reality, just given his size, given his shooting. Obviously that can improve, but at this point, it's kind of what I'm thinking.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. Well, with that being said, we'll go on to 14th in the East. Jace, who do you got there?
14th, me and you were just flip-flopped. I have the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets. I think that you covered the majority of it really well. The only thing that I think I would add to why I'm not a believer in the Nets, Cam Thomas is going to shoot the ball like 30 times a night.
He is. No, he certainly is.
You know, that's going to like get him some big scoring nights.
If you play fantasy basketball, which I do, like maybe like the missed shots will affect the scoring, but he's going to score a lot. Like he's going to score a lot.
But I don't really love, honestly, like any of their young pieces. I don't really think that they have like good building blocks at the moment. But yeah, it's just, I don't know how you could be very positive going into the year for Brooklyn, personally.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And yeah, for me, like you said, Jace, we're flip-flopped. I have the Wizards here in 14th. The primary note I have here is like Poole's the point guard.
Yeah.
Like that is just not what you want. I do think Sarr is going to have a better year than he looked in Summer League.
Yeah.
Didn't he have a good game or two in the preseason? I think he did.
Yes, he did. He was shooting like threes, really confident.
Well, I say let him shoot. Have him shoot it. If he can do it, because you're not going to, you're not really going to win many games regardless. So let's see if he can. But he obviously has some stuff to improve on. I think he's going to be pretty good defensively. But yeah, I'm with you. Those two teams are going to be fighting for it at the bottom. Not very good. And what about you? What do you got at 14?
I got Washington
in the East?
And yeah, we've said enough about the Wizards. Like, I don't know if anyone wants to hear any more Wizards talk. But I do. I have a question.
That's very fair.
What else can you say?
Are they still trying to move to Virginia, or did that like fall through?
I think that's still in the cards. Yeah, I don't really follow like owner drama really that much, but I think it's still in the cards. I think it might be that deal where like the owner's trying to put a gun to the city's head and be like, y'all need to pay for this arena or we're going to move, kind of thing.
Right.
But they're terrible. I can't wait for the Wizards and Pistons matchup.
Yeah, not good.
Toilet
bowl.
Those were great.
Yeah, 2024. I am higher on the Pistons than you are, though. Anthony.
You are. I don't see it.
Okay. All right, Ant. Let's bump over. Well, we'll see. Let's bump over to the West, Ant. Who do you got in
the West
14
is
there?
Way more interesting because I have the Jazz in 14th, but like really 1 through 14. Like I don't think any of these teams are going to tank. Am I wrong? Like the Jazz. I mean, depends on how their season goes.
They will. Depends on how it's going
because they're going to be, I think, like fringe, like play-in, like competing with those teams around them. They'll probably pull the plug. At some point.
Really? Wow.
I just think the West is so competitive, like top to bottom, minus Portland.
I'm with you, Ant. I have the Jazz in 14th as well.
I do too. 3 for 3.
Okay, so you're saying Portland is the only team in the West that is for sure tanking?
As of now. I think everyone else is like pretty good.
I think that it's these two teams, the Blazers and the Jazz.
Yeah, me too.
I kind of think the Jazz will pull the plug early.
Well, they can't. Well, they've done this thing the past 2 seasons where they come out and they play pretty good in the early part of the season, and then they like y'all have been saying they pull the plug. Why?
Right?
Why?
Yeah,
why do that this year?
Why.
They cannot compete with who's at the top. Like, there's no reason. They have to be smart here and lose.
And I think in the draft last year, I guess last year and the year before. Utah added like some really interesting young guys.
Yeah. Guys that you need to play.
Yeah. So I think kind of like shifting the focus to them could be about an equivalent of pulling the plug, like we were saying. So, kind of respectable tanking, if you will.
Yeah. I have the Jazz in 14th as well, like we said. I think Laurie is the guy that's going to keep him from being at the very bottom here. The only other thing I had on them was I think Clarkson's probably going to play pretty good and get traded. He's good. I think Clarkson's good. If you need a pop off the bench, a little bit of scoring.
Former sixth man of the year, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Bring him off the bench.
Yup.
No one mentioned Cody Williams.
Well, yeah, let's keep it moving.
Shout out Cody Williams.
Well, let's just say we've been talking. Anthony just said like the West is the more interesting conference. We're Western Conference basketball watchers. We're all Thunder fans. Just so it's said, we're not going to do anything to hide it. This isn't a Thunder basketball podcast, but we all love the Thunder. Yeah, I got mine on too. We love the Thunder. We are Thunder fans. Just so it's said. Okay, cool. Jace. 13th in the East. Who do you got?
Yeah, 13th in the East. Shout out Anthony. This is where the Pistons fall for me. It's the Pistons. I think that they're not going to be, like super improved, but I do think the coaching change is going to help, especially on defense for them. I really like some of their young pieces, and this is said every offseason since he was drafted, but I think that Cade is going to make a little bit of a leap this year. I think this is the year where he finally does it. And this is recency bias, putting a little bit too much faith in preseason, but Ivy has really looked like he's improved shooting from deep. And if he has a three ball, I think he's like a really good player, like a super effective player, especially for their offense. So I think that they're going to make a tiny leap, but nothing substantial too much.
Yeah, so I also have the Pistons 13th. I'm pretty much there with you. I didn't include Ivy in my notes. I liked him coming out just because I didn't include him just because I did him before I had watched him play a couple of preseason games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the shooting looks good. We'll see. It's preseason,
right.
Yeah,
who knows?
But yeah, to that point, I do think the Pistons tried to do some stuff to address the spacing for Cade. The roster's still not very good. I do think it makes a little bit more sense on paper than it has in the past couple of years. And I also, Bickerstaff has done a pretty good job. The scoring defense, as far as points per possession, I'm looking at Cleaning the Glass right now. The Cavs, in the past 3 years that Bickerstaff was there, 6th last year, 1st the year before, 6th again the year before that. So obviously very, very good defensive teams. And of course, Jared Allen Mobley, like that roster is a lot better, But I do think there will be some improvement there. I think they'll get a little better on offense. It won't be very good, but they'll be better, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you got 13th?
I got Charlotte. Charlotte,
okay.
Washington, and Detroit at the bottom. I think that's exactly how it was last year. Yeah, these teams have done a good job of stockpiling talent, especially the Pistons. Yeah, you watch or you see
young talent
guys like Ivy and Cade and what's that big guy, Duran. They have all the pieces, but they have spent years trying to put it together. Whereas, the Thunder, which we will get to later, has a way of playing, and then they add,
much later.
add guys that fit what they want to do. These teams, I don't think they know what they want to do. They're just hoping that someone becomes a superstar. And I don't know, LaMelo,
Yeah, I agree. I do think that,
Trey Mann.
If he's healthy, he's really, really good, but he hasn't been healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think, Anthony, you're absolutely right about those three teams kind of not at this point knowing really what they want to do or how to really proceed. So that certainly makes sense. How about the West? Who you got in 13th in the West?
Ooh, I have San Antonio, but this is where it gets really tricky. I think the Spurs. I don't know. And I keep bringing up the Thunder because we did this also, like where we know like we're going to be good in a couple of years, but we don't want to get too good too fast. So the Spurs, like they know what they got in Wemby, like
Right.
and they're slowly adding like better pieces.
Yeah.
But I don't think they should go all in like to try to make the play in this year.
Yeah. So I'll just go ahead and say this on the Spurs. I have the Spurs at 12th. I'll talk about my 13th team here in a second, but we're pretty close on that, Anthony. I do think that the Spurs made some moderately significant additions. Like if you look at Chris Paul, when he's kind of bounced around these past few years. If you look at like over under projections when Chris Paul's on a new team, his last like 5 teams, they've gone over their win total. So the Spurs win total is 36.5. I think they're going to be closer to 40. I have it as an over that I would like, one of my favorite overs in the West. So over that 36.5, I really like. And I think that over is from MGM. Not that that really matters or anything, but yeah, on the Spurs, I think Wemby's going to like ascend this year. Like he's going to be like a borderline top 20, like top 10 player, I think, borderline top 10 player if he's not already. I think he's going to be an over 20 point per game scorer. He's still going to play the defense. I think they're going to put him in a position to facilitate a lot more this year. I think he's going to have a lot more assists. Chris Paul is going to kind of run the show. They had Sohan playing point guard last year. Right. No disrespect to Sohan. He just shouldn't be playing that position. Like, I think they got a lot better. And I think Wemby is just like going to become one of those guys like a Jokic or a Giannis. Like you are going to win a certain amount of games by having that guy on your team. Like, yeah. But anyway, that's on the Spurs. I have in 13th in the West, the Clippers.
Oh man!
So that's going to put us firmly in like a prime
in
lottery
the brand
situation.
New arena.
Of course, Thunder fans will know that. Yeah, even with the brand new arena, all the toilets, all the video screens, yeah,
the wall of fans behind the behind the basket.
Yes. So yeah, I have the Clippers 13th. Kawhi is. When he's out there, he's still really good. If you look at like any of the advanced stats or really just any counting stats, like he's really good. I think it's time to, the bell has kind of tolled for him, I think. And it's not going to be good. If he's not out there, they're not going to be good. They don't have any depth. I'm a Harden believer, as you two both know, but like they just don't have the supporting cast, I don't think. I mean, they're going to be relying on Kevin Porter Jr. I think that Kai Jones was in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. I think he might play. So
he will.
Yeah. I think they're in big trouble. I think they're in big trouble.
I am also with you on this one, Rhett. I have the Clippers 13 as well. Really, my big thing with this came from a quote from what James Harden said about, if Luka can do it, why can't I? It's like,
oh no, yeah,
those days are behind you, big man.
Well, so if you give him like the benefit of the doubt, he's kind of right, but you're also right, Jace. Like he's not that guy anymore. Mm-hmm. At one time he was, but he's not anymore.
He was doing that in Houston and was just fine doing it there.
Oh yeah,
I don't have the playoff memory. It's been a minute, but the Clippers and the Mavs, that was a pretty good series if I can remember. And it was Harden that was going off.
You're right. It went to 6.
It was the beard. And what is the 4 or 5 matchup? So like I can't.
They were the 5 last year, right?
No, they were the 4. Yeah, I think the Mavs
were the 4.
5. But I don't know. Someone can fact check me.
Well, so here's my thought on that, and just obvious. I know y'all know this, but they had a top 10 player, roughly top 15 to top 10 player, walk out the door on him for nothing. It looks like Kawhi. Who knows? But like he's probably not going to play that much in the regular season. So those two are big. I mean, big factors.
Yeah.
And they also had the Brody last year.
They did have the Brody last year. They did.
So,
another guy.
Oh,
yep.
I just think that's a huge fall. Like, teams usually don't fall from,
I don't know,
a top 4 seed.
That is a big drop. Yeah.
Not even close to the play-in. Like, with the brand new arena and, like, strong ownership, like, I don't know. But we'll see. Oh,
yeah.
Well, another thing on them, too, if they get in hot water, they don't have any assets. They can't make any moves if they get in trouble early in the year, really. Like, if they're not off to a hot start, I don't see them being able to make a trade for a guy that's going to really make a difference. I think they're in a really tough spot.
I have a prediction for them this year. I think one way or another, somehow, they're going to have an internal crash out before All-Star break.
Quite possible.
I don't know. Something's going to happen, and it's going to cause a lot of problems with their roster.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting situation to monitor. Okay. Yeah, well, there's 13. So, Anthony, let's go back over to the Eastern Conference. 12th in the East. Who do you got?
I got Brooklyn, which the way y'all were talking about them, I should maybe have them lower, but they still got some good pieces.
Well, we don't know. We don't know what we're talking about.
like
who?
Claxton. Like, we wanted to get Claxton. You know, he's still there.
I do like Claxton. So, yeah, I was hoping you'd say that.
They got some good pieces.
I'll give you this, Anthony. I think, if they play all of their guys and, like, don't make any big trades or anything, I think finishing 12th is, like, fair for them. I just feel like they're going to make quite a bit of moves. But you're right. They do have, like, some pretty good players who I think would be thought of a lot higher if they weren't playing for the Nets.
I do agree with that, certainly, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's not bad, Anthony. We don't know what we're talking about. I don't. So
I don't know. I'm guessing.
Okay, yeah, so this might be a team that y'all are kind of interested in talking about. I've got the Bulls finishing 12th. I really like Kobe White for them. I think Giddey's going to have a really good year too. They just are not going to be able to defend. Like, I think it's going to be really ugly on that side of the ball. I really don't have too much to say about them. Maybe they'll try to trade Levine. I don't know. It's not a very good situation for him, I don't think. Maybe having another guard like Giddey will help. I don't think so, but we'll see. Just they won't be able to guard. The roster doesn't really make a ton of sense. I think they're going to be pretty bad.
I think that's fair. I've got a different team than both of y'all at 12. I've got the Toronto Raptors. I think like looking at the roster, I think that they have some good players. But I don't know. I just feel like they're a bad fit together. Like, the main one, obviously, Scotty Barnes. I am a Barnes truther.
Me too.
But I don't know. Maybe if Grady Dick takes another big leap, maybe quickly takes a step forward. But I don't know. I don't like how their roster is built out. They have added one of my favorite guys in the world with Jamal Shed in the draft, and he's looked awesome. But
Shedheads.
Amen, Shedheads. But I don't know how any of it works for them. Like, I think they're going to have to somewhat blow it up to really kind of, get back to a contending level team. But I don't know. I'm just not really buying the Raptors.
Yeah, no. Okay, cool. All right. Well, yeah, that's Raptors at 12 in the East. Jace, who do you got 12 in the West?
12 in the West. I was pretty happy about this one personally. The Golden State Warriors. I think they don't.
It's crazy, but I think I got to say before you give your notes on the Warriors, I bet we're probably all going to have them around this area, which is just unbelievable.
I know.
They've been so good for so long. But I agree with you. So, yeah, go ahead, Jace.
I think, which we may have already been in this for a couple years now, but I think this is the year we really kind of see the downfall of the dynasty. Like, it's only Steph and Draymond left from any of the
from the main group. You could say Wiggins.
Wiggins! I did forget about Wiggins. But yeah, weird roster moves. I'm happy Buddy Hield is there. I do think he'll be a nice piece for Steph to play with. But I don't know. They just messed everything up in Golden State when they tried to do the 2 timeline kind of rebuild thing.
Yeah, I
totally agree. I don't know. It just tore everything up internally is what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of the turning of the page for Golden State this year.
Yeah. Well, so I have the Spurs in 12th, which I already gave my Spurs spiel there. Anthony, who do you have in 12th in the
Clippers.
West?
Although I'm not as it seems low, and I was just talking about how I don't think they should be low, but everyone above them, I have the Warriors above them. But yeah, having the Warriors and Clippers so low, that's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's
weird.
Really strange. League moves fast, man. It moves fast. Cool. Okay, well, let's stay in the West. I want to stay in the West here for just a second. I'm going to go up to 11th, and the reason I want to do that, I have the Warriors in 11th. Jace just talked about the Warriors, and Jace, I agree with a lot of what you said. I just don't really think the roster's that good. I do think Steph's probably I think he's probably closer to top 5 than he is top 10, which is just unreal for a guy his age. And to already have done everything that he has done, he's still playing at that level with this team. It's really, really unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Jace, I do agree with you. It's time to pay the piper. The drafts, financial decisions, lack of aggression, transactionally with trades and contracts, et cetera, et cetera. I do think it's over for them. But yeah, I mean, all due respect to Steph. Yeah, they caused us a lot of pain, obviously, but
right.
You got to respect it. You got to respect what Steph's done, especially. And man, it was a good run, but I don't know. I think it's over.
You know what we kind of
debatably one of the best dynasties.
You know what we kind of sound like though, when we're talking Steph, it's over. It kind of sounds like LeBron. What was that Skip Bayless tweet where he's like, "This won't last." Yeah, LeBron.
But that's LeBron, dude. Steph's good, but he's not. I know, LeBron.
But Steph, every time he shoots, you still think it's going to go in. And the Olympics, he was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll probably, dude. That thing that you just said about every time he shoots, you think it's going in. I'll probably feel that way about him.
As long as he plays, as long as he's playing,
he's incredible.
When did they win?
I didn't know I could get as much heartbreak from a jump shot as I can from him.
Yeah,
they won it in 22, didn't they?
Yeah, it was pretty recently.
Yeah, dude, but I mean, you got to look at their roster right now, man.
Steph Curry.
Wiggins was good. I mean, really good, especially in that run.
He was an all-star.
Really good. Yeah,
an all-star starter.
You got the K-pop bump. You got the K-pop bump.
Crazy time, man. Crazy business.
Okay. Okay. So, Ant, we're at 11 in the East. Who do you got there?
In the East.
Wait, 11 in the West, I believe.
Jace, yeah, I'm sorry. We just started 11 in the West. You're right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Did you give yours yet, Jace, or no?
I have not. You can go
Oh,
ahead,
it's the
Anthony.
Warriors, just like Rhett.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
Fair enough,
Sweet.
yeah. We've talked enough about them. Let's get juicy. Number 11 for me, I have the Spurs. My notes on them are real similar to what we've already said. I think Wemby, like, solidified superstar this year. Big reason from that is just, I think Chris Paul, not just like throwing him lobs, blah, 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 running pick and rolls together, but I think Chris Paul is going to help him a ton on offense. Like, even if it's just like communicating or behind the scenes, like practice stuff, Chris Paul is like one of the smartest offensive, honestly, maybe one of the smartest all-around players that we've seen in our lifetime.
Of our lifetime. Yeah, certainly.
Like, he's incredible. I think they'll be fighting for a play-in spot. I am a Stephon Castle believer big time. So I think they're going to let him get a lot of runs, which may hold him back a little bit, but I think in the long term, definitely worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to say on my 11 and 12, I think both those teams are going to be fighting for the play, and like I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I agree.
At the bottom there.
I agree.
And who do you? Oh, you've got Warriors there in 11. Ant, let's throw it back to you, and now we'll go to the East.
Yeah, I have Chicago at 11. I haven't really talked about Chicago at all, but yeah, they're not good. Actually, I booked a flight to Chicago today. So I'm trying to go out there in December.
Oh, nice. What for?
They're doing like a holiday party, and I don't want to go
Very
to one
nice.
in OKC. So, yeah, I might go for the weekend.
Sick, yeah.
Just go to Chicago.
I've never been to Chicago. I've heard it's really cool.
But the Sixers are in town when I'm trying to go, so that'd be cool. But yeah, they're not good. The Giddey, like,
that would be a fun
I like
matchup.
Giddey, like, you know, Thunder legend, but I don't think he's going to be like that improved, like most improved player level. And they lost, who else? They lost Caruso. They lost DeRozan.
No, I don't either.
They're just not good.
Yeah, I agree on that, Ant. Well said. Okay, so that's 11 in the East and the West. So we're into the top 10 now. Let's go back, and we'll just go East to West from here on. Jace, go ahead.
Yeah, before we move on, I had Bulls 11 as well in the East, but just building off of what Anthony said, I think Giddey is going to have I think he'll be top 3 in most improved. But hear me out on this just real quick. Because before last season, you know, Giddey averaged like 16 points, 16, 6 and 6?
Yeah, 6 and 7 or so. Yeah.
I think that his numbers are going to be real similar to that this year. But just, you know, voting on most improved player is like the most useless.
It's stupid.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
So I think if he just jumps back to how his numbers were 2 years ago, I think that people are going to be making a big argument for him to win most improved, even though like we've already seen that from him before. Just kind of narrative driven push for most improved.
I think he's going to be close to a triple double, like something like 15, 7 and 7 or something like that. Probably. I think he's going to have a really good statistical year, but he can't. It goes back. They won't be able to win because they can't guard. He can't guard.
The things that we talked about with Giddey, like, yeah, he can average a triple double, but are they still going to leave him wide open? Is he still going to guard nobody? Like, those issues are still there,
right.
And I think people will see that he contributes more to losing than winning.
You're right.
And I don't know. I don't know if you can be most improved with that.
Well, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I don't think them losing is going to be like primarily his fault. I think it's more going to be more of like an infrastructure thing. I think he's going to make positive contributions. But yeah, the shooting is. I don't see the shooting changing drastically this year. especially with that roster. I don't see why he would take more or make more. I don't think that's going to happen. All right, we ready to go into the top 10?
Let's do it. Play in.
This is the play-in. Yes, that's right. This is the play-in. So these are the real teams from here on out. Okay, cool. So 10 in the East. Ant, you want to get us started there?
I guess. I'm still not excited about the East at this point. I have Toronto, but I'm looking at last year's standings. They finished 12th.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to justify why they're 2 spots better this year. Maybe it's because of their new purple uniforms. But that's about it with Toronto.
Valid argument.
It's every year with the East.
Yeah.
It's every year with the East that there's a team or two in the play-in that has no right to be there. And so it could be Toronto this year.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good argument.
Yeah. I want to jump in here, Ant, because I have the Hawks at 10. I just don't think they have much juice. I think Trey's going to get them there. I don't really have much to say about the Hawks. I do think Riza Shea is going to have a pretty good year. Just, I don't know. I think they're good enough to be in the play-in, not much better than that. But the reason I want to jump in here, I had the Raptors at 9, Ant, which they're jumping 3 spots, which that felt like a big jump to me, just like you said, Ant. But obviously the big trade last year, the Anunoby trade, a lot of new pieces they were kind of integrating mid-season. I think a full year that's going to look a lot better. Jace, you mentioned Giddey in the top 3 and most improved. I have a Raptor that I think is going to be at least top 3 and most improved. It's Quickly. Emmanuel Quickly. I think he's going to have a really good year for them. And like you said, Jace, I'm a Scotty believer. And I also think RJ is a pretty good player. Had a decent Olympic run.
Yeah.
Think there's some stuff he can contribute. Still at Pirtle, solid player. So, yeah, we got them at 9. And, again, Hawks at 10. So, Jace, who do you have 10 in the East, unless there's anything you want to say there?
Yeah, I'm good on that for now. 10 on the East for me, probably my biggest riser from the projected wins. I have the Hornets.
Okay. So is that an over that you like? Would you say Hornets over?
Yeah, because they're set at 29.5.
29.5. Yeah.
But I think that they're going to be pretty good if LaMelo stays healthy. I think they finally kind of have their young core, good pieces. The big 3 that jump out to me are obviously LaMelo and Brandon Miller and Mark Williams, their center. I think that those 3 guys are kind of there, for the long haul with them. I think that they really like them. Really like him, I should say. But Brandon Miller is good.
Really good, I think, maybe. Yeah.
I think he's going to kind of be, the primary scorer more so than LaMelo had been for them. And I think that's just kind of going to help their system, their offensive system, be a lot smoother. But yeah, I think the Hornets are going to be kind of a big surprise team this year.
Cool. All right, yeah. Okay, so we are at 10 in the West now. Jace, who do you have there? 10 in the Western Conference.
10 in the West, I'm going to go with the New Orleans Pelicans. The big thing for that, if Zion's healthy, remarkable, unstoppable, I think.
Dominant player.
Yeah. I think adding DeJounte Murray is helpful for him, but I don't really think that it fixed, the big hole of not having enough shooters or good enough shooters. And I think that's still going to be a pretty big issue. And with how good the West is, I'm not really moved by him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just kind of, As far as like the rest of the conference getting better, that's factoring into my pick here at 10. I've got the Lakers at 10. That was the main thing I took away from it. I just don't really think they got that much better this year. New coach, of course, the pod father. Actually, no, that's disrespectful. Bill Simmons is the pod father, but podcaster.
Whatever.
They're probably going to have another deadline roster haul. I think it'll probably be DFS, Brooklyn. But yeah, I don't think the roster is going to be good enough in a Western Conference that, like we've talked about, is so good. LeBron's still going to be really good, I think, as long as he can stay healthy, which, knock on wood, he stays healthy. I hope he does.
Keep him forever.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. Ant, what about you? What do you got?
Houston at 10. But yeah, 10 and up, like, all these teams are good. Not a knock to Houston. Like, their record's going to be above 500. They were knocking at the door of the play-in last year. I saw them last week. Jace was there too. Preseason, OKC. They played us. It's preseason, but they played us pretty good with all of our starters in there. They're going to be really competitive. It's just like, this is mainly in the West, like all the teams that are in front of them. Like, I just don't think they can break into that yet. Yeah. Maybe they run past New Orleans. But yeah, I think they're a play-in team.
Yeah, so let's stay in the West and let's move over to 9 because I want to stay on the Rockets. I have the Rockets at 9. Like Anthony said, I do think they're going to be over 500. I think they might even win a play-in game, one at least. It's just they've got a lot to figure out, and they have a good coach, I think, there. But the problem for them with, for me, I think is just too many mouths to feed. Sengun and Green are both in a contract year. Obviously, those are two very important players to the team. They're going to want to get paid, of course. It's probably going to take some developmental reps away from some of the other guys that should have them. Thompson is a big one. I think they still like Eason somewhat. I don't see where he's really going to play that much. Adams will probably help. He's just really solid rebounder, screener, dirty work kind of guy. But yeah, they're an interesting, probably one of the more interesting teams in the league to me. They got a lot of good pieces, young pieces, cheap pieces. They could do a trade if they want to,
Dylan Brooks.
Who knows? I think they've got a lot of flexibility. They got some good players. Just the main thing for me is too many mouths to feed, like I said. But yeah, Jace, let's go over to you for your 9th in the Western Conference.
Yeah, 9 in the West. I have the Lakers. I think you summed it up really well, Rhett. Didn't really make like big moves. I think, which, this is always a little bit of the case for the Lakers, but I think this season is more so like, I think it's going to be about LeBron and Bronny. Like, I think that's where the focus is going to be throughout the year.
That's like an all-time NBA just like storyline.
Yeah.
Like lore.
No, it's incredible.
Like, that's totally understandable. Yeah. Father-son playing on the Lakers.
Yeah.
Like, that's sick.
No.
Yeah.
According to myself, the best player of all time.
Agreed.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think this is going to be, I think LeBron is going to be a little more relaxed this year. Maybe saying a little more isn't the right way to put it. But I don't know really what type of pieces they could add to get him back to an actual championship contender.
I don't either. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's pretty thick in the West, man. I don't know. I think LeBron this pains me to say, I think his age is catching up to him a little bit, which, hasn't been a huge issue up to this point, but I'm not impressed with the Lakers.
Yeah. Very fair. And
I got
ninth
the
in the
Lakers
West.
Keep talking about LeBron. Yeah, he's LeBron, but he's getting older. We referenced that tweet again. Like, he's still gonna be good. Like, longer than we think. So, but they're just not like a successful season for them is making the playoffs. Like, they know that they're not.
I agree. That'd be best case scenario.
9.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be like just making the play-in is a successful season. Like,
I don't think they're getting higher than 8th.
There's no way. There's too many good teams.
I don't think. With this roster, if they make a trade, it might be possible.
Playing 82 games.
I want to.
If he misses significant time, they're in big trouble. Yeah.
I want to clarify something that I said about LeBron, about him getting older. He's still going to average like 25, 6, and 6.
Do y'all think he'll still be an All-NBA guy this year?
I don't think he'll make an All-NBA team, but he's a lock for an All-Star team today.
I think he'll be an All-NBA guy again.
Yeah. That would not be like super surprising. I just think, like the young up-and-comers like Anthony Edwards, which he made one last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
He'll be on there again. I think Wemby will make one this year. I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of a passing of the torch type of year for like a lot of different things.
Yeah, kind of in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree on that. Cool. Okay, Ant, let's kick it over to you for 9th in the East. And let me just say before you start, Ant, I've got the Raptors in 9th in the East, which I already gave my Raptors notes. So that's my pick. Raptors 9th in the East. So go for it, Ant.
If 9th place, I got Atlanta. Shout out Trae Young from Norman, Oklahoma, where I'm located right now. I have hooped at Trae Young's. I have
Norman
hooped
legend.
at the Trae Young Athletic Center, where
that must be said. Yeah, that's sick.
Hey, incredible gym, isn't it, Anthony? I've covered tournaments there. It's so nice.
Yeah, they had that really good run. What was it, 21, when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Not that long ago.
Like, I'm waiting for them to get to that point. Like,
was really weird.
Yeah, I don't know what they finished last year, but I'm not super low. I'm not super high on Atlanta. I think Trae Young's going to have a great year, but that's not going to be enough to get him in the top 8.
Yeah.
I also have the Hawks here at 9. Would not be too surprised if they finished like a tiny bit higher than this or at like near the bottom. Yeah. But I think that they're going to be pushing really hard. I'm so sorry I didn't write this down, but they don't have their first round pick this year.
I didn't know that.
They've traded it.
Who's got it?
I was just trying to find it.
Is it New Orleans?
No.
The DeJounte?
I don't believe so.
I'll try to find it. Keep going, Jace.
Okay. But yeah, like I think they're going to be making a push. But I don't know. I kind of feel like if they're going to be making the push with like the age of a lot of the players they have, I think that there could be a little fallout within the team and, have some trade requests, that type of thing going on. But yeah, I also think on the other hand, personally, I think Trae Young's about a top 5 point guard in the NBA.
I agree.
Even with how bad he is on defense, but he's good. I think he's about ready to, try to get the credit that I think he deserves. And, could have a very big impressive year.
That's what I'm thinking. I think it's Trae Young time. Like he's got 2 kids now. You know, he's taking big steps. Like he's
got
already got
to feed.
The gym. No,
what's that got to do with it,
dude? It's the maturity. It's he's got the Adidas. You know how many shoes he's got with Adidas already. He's got the gym. He's got his house.
Well, if it's Trae Young time, it's time for him to be traded because they ain't gonna win there. Sorry.
Well,
but hey, on that pick, I was kind of right. It is DeJounte, but it's the Spurs.
Yes, Spurs. It's
the Spurs. Yep.
It's a pretty lucky place for that to wind up.
Okay, cool. All right, so now we are into the top 8, y'all. So the old school playoff teams, new school play-in teams for these next 2. Let's go to the Eastern Conference 8th seed. Jace, who do you have in 8th?
I'm happy that I get to go first on this one. Would like to talk about them. I have the Miami Heat.
Me too.
Me too, actually.
I think this is just a
really.
Hey,
you too, Ant?
Nice.
All right, nice.
Just kind of a prediction here. I think we're approaching the Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley tipping point.
This is his last season in Miami.
Yeah. I think it's going to get, just kind of with how the 2 of those guys are, I think it's going to get pretty ugly pretty quick. But I think the Heat are going to try to kind of turn to Bam as their number 1 guy. Obviously, he's been that on defense. But, a little more time with the ball in his hands, helping initiate. I think it's going to be a really good year for Bam. But just kind of big picture, not enough talent on the roster to really compete too much.
Yeah. So it's a contract year for Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Jimmy's going to have a really good year, but he's not going to be back with the Heat. The way they're set up, I think they're going to win a decent amount, middling. They'll be around 500 probably in this conference. They've just been passed up. They haven't been aggressive enough. And I wrote, all due respect, he put together some pretty good teams back in the early 2010s, but Sleepy Pat. Sleepy Pat. That's what I had written down. Sleepy Pat. They should have traded for Dame. They should have traded for Dame when they could have. And they could have. But they didn't do it. Ant, you got anything you want to add on the Heat?
Not really. They got to stop with those Heat culture jerseys. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no more of that.
The toughest, grittiest.
That got to be the less tough.
No.
And I don't know. They still got pieces. I mean,
that was a little corny.
We say that, that's like overdone, like the Heat culture, but they are the Heat. Like they will be around. Jimmy, Sam,
they win. Yeah,
they have
Kevin
a track
Love,
record.
Tyler Hero, like, if everyone is healthy, you never know. Like all those guys have experience.
And boy, did they know how to pick them out of the G League.
No kidding. Yeah, that is no joke. Cool. Okay, well, we'll keep it moving. We'll go over to 8th in the West. Ant, let's stay with you. Who do you got 8th in the West?
I got the Pels, which I guess I'm the highest on the Pelicans.
Me too.
But yeah, they were 8th last year before they got swept by OKC. The way I feel about Trae Young, I kind of feel about Zion. Like Zion's really good. Like I just think he's super efficient. He's huge. He's unstoppable when he's healthy. They have issues like losing Valanciunas. Like who do they have like as a real center? But they have good pieces. Like I think they're good enough to be a playoff team still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had the Pelicans lower initially, but I actually moved them over to 8th on mine. I made some last minute changes. I kind of had a tough time reading their over-under. I could see it going either way. It's 46.5. I think CJ McCollum kind of got like a bad rap for some of their problems last year that he shouldn't have. I mean, he wasn't great, but I think, he's still a playable guy. I love the Murray ad. I think that's like a big, big addition, big upgrade. I think it's just a Zion health thing, kind of like y'all said. If he's all in, if he's locked in and healthy and ready to go, they're going to be really good. If not, they'll struggle. But, way it is for a lot of teams in this league, I guess.
My number 8 team, y'all both had the Pelicans. I had a different team over here. I have the Rockets. My big thing with Houston is I think like the perimeter defenders that they have, they can just kind of keep them rotating. I think that it could get a little bit like overwhelming for teams at times because they just have so many like 6 foot 6 or taller, like strong athletes that pressure and get out in transition. One more thing that I think is going to be a weird thing for Houston this year. I think Jalen Green is going to have like a very good offensive year, like their leading scorer, kind of the go-to guy for scoring. But even with that being said, I think Rockets fans are going to leave the season thinking like Reed Shepard's the guy that we need to keep for our like outside shooting threat. Just because Reed is so much better on defense. I think he's quite a bit better shooter than Jalen Green. And I think Jalen Green's a good shooter. But Reed is just like different shooting. So regardless of how well Jalen Green plays, I think Reed is going to kind of be the guy going forward in that position for them.
Reed's going to force his way into this.
Right.
Yeah. They will have no choice but to play him. Like he'll be too good.
I agree.
Cool. Okay, so we got me and Anthony got the Pelicans at 8. Jace, you've got the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to 7.
Cool.
Jace, 7 in the East. Who do you got there?
7 in the East, I have the Indiana Pacers.
Oh, wow.
7 up is where I think he gets pretty thick in the East.
I've got the Pacers a lot higher than that.
Yeah. I figured you would from when we've talked about them.
Yeah.
I think the offense, as good as advertised, I think it's still going to be an awesome offense, one of the best in the NBA. I think Halliburton is like, top 3 passer, like table setter for an offense.
He's top 3 passer. Yeah.
But I don't know. The way their roster looks, I think after the success they had last year, I think the defense is really going to be an issue this year. Like, I think teams will have a better idea of kind of how to attack it. I'll give a key to the Pacers for them proving me wrong. If they give Jarris Walker opportunities to prove himself.
Yeah, that factors into it for me too, Jace. He's going to play.
I think he could be a pretty big difference maker and like potentially the difference between me just looking like an idiot for having him at 7 or for them finishing like close to this range that I have him in right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to save my Pacers spiel because, like I said, I've got them a lot higher than you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, 7 in the East for me. I've got the Cavs.
Ooh.
They got a new coach. I'm blanking on who it is. I feel like an idiot.
Kenny
they got a
Atkinson.
new coach. Atkinson,
Mm-hmm.
right. Atkinson. He's had some head coaching stops in the past. I think it went like decently well. Obviously, he wasn't a head coach last year, of course. I don't know. I think Bickerstaff's like, okay, probably time for him to go, but neither here nor there, really. For me, it really just comes down to Mobley.
Yeah.
They need Mobley to take that step on the offensive side pretty bad. I just haven't seen it. I like him a lot as a defensive player. I kind of think they are like feeling like they need him to shoot threes, and
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. They need him to do that. If he does it, they'll be really good. It's tough from here on out. I think 7 up. I think it's going to be pretty close in both conferences, really, till we get to like the very tip top. But yeah, I've got the Cavs at 7. And who do you got
Orlando. I was going back and forth between the Cavs and the Magic. I think the Cavs will be above Orlando. But yeah, it's tough when we get to this point. Like, it's not that they're bad. I think Paolo's really good. But the teams above them.
I agree. I think we've talked to all the bad teams already. So, yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's crazy at all. I have the Magic higher, but kind of like we were just saying, like, it's going to be close in there. Like, just a few games separating, like, a 4 and a 7 seed, potentially. Like, yeah, you never know how it's going to shake out. And kind of with how the NBA is today, I don't really think a lot of the teams take it all that serious. Like, if they know they're a top 6
Some
team,
of them won't.
Some won't. A lot of teams just are cool with being the, like a 6 seed rather than a 3 seed.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Ant, let's stick with you. We'll go to 7 in the West.
7 in the West, I got Memphis. Memphis is probably going to be the most interesting team this year.
7, okay.
Because good 2 years ago,
They'll be up
last year.
Yeah, for sure.
Where are they going to be this year? Could be anywhere. I think they're a playoff team, but I think the top 4 in the West is a lock. So that puts them in the next 4. And I don't know. I love Edie. I think Ja is going to be great. All their other guys.
Me too.
If they stay healthy, they're a good team. But I don't know. I think we'll know pretty early with Memphis, how they're going to be, if they're for real or not.
I agree. Yeah. I'm higher on Memphis than that, but I do agree. I think we're going to know pretty early, obviously assuming health, which hopefully they're healthy. But yeah. Okay, so that's Memphis at 7. I have 7th in the West. I have the Kings.
Same here.
Okay. So I think I'm going to say the 6 and 7 seed in the Western Conference is where it's going to be really, really close for me. I had some shuffling around here right before we did this, but for me, I think last year was more of an anomaly for this team than the 3 seed year was a couple years ago. I'm a Mike Brown believer too. I don't think they're going to be a great defensive team given their roster. I think they're going to be really, really good on offense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a DeRozan guy. I just like him personally. I like his game. I think he's still a really good player. And if he's your 3rd guy, I still feel like that's pretty good. So yeah, I've got the Kings and 7 there.
I agree with all of that. I had in my notes, I think DeRozan's going to help him, especially in the regular season. I think he's a good piece for them to add. One person that you didn't mention that I think could kind of take a leap.
I think I know who you're going to say.
Help him out. Is it Keegan Murray?
Yeah, I love Keegan Murray.
Yeah, I think he's going to be very good for them this year. Last note that I have here, you kind of said this in a way. I think Mike Brown's a top 5 offensive coach. I'd
agree. Yeah.
I think he's really good, and adding DeRozan in there, I think, is going to be super nice, especially when DeRozan is playing off of Sabonis, out of the high post like they do. I think that's going to be a real good duo throughout the season.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, well, we're at the 6th seed now.
Playoff teams.
So these are playoff teams. Yeah, so this is the teams I've really been looking forward to talking about, especially actually the team I have in 6th in the West. So let's stay in the West for now. Jace, who do you have in 6th in the Western Conference?
6, I have the Grizzlies in the West. Kind of, we've talked about them a decent bit. I think this is not a hot take, but like Ja changes them. He changes how they play and how effective they are, like big time. I think early on in the season, the Grizzlies are going to kind of jump off to a hot start. And a big part of that, I think they're going to lean on Edie like in a decent bit early on in the season. That might cool off like down the road, but I think he's going to help them early, kind of get out to a little bit of a head start. All in all, just kind of from their improvements from last year with all of the injuries that they were dealing with, I think Taylor Jenkins is going to make a push for Coach of the Year. Even if they did finish as low as 6,
good pick.
I think that he'll be in the conversation.
Yeah. Okay, well, in the West, I have the Phoenix Suns at 6. Now, obviously, it's Bud Ball time there,
Right.
A lot of other teams got better in this conference. The thing for me with them is I think it really for me is mostly about Bud, really. I think they're going to be better defensively. He's just a really, if you look at those Bucks years, they were always really good. And again, like I said with another team a while ago, obviously those rosters are better in Milwaukee than what he's got here, top to bottom. But they're going to be better defensively, I think. I think he's probably going to ask Nurkic to expand his shooting and take more perimeter shots. Can he make them? I don't really know that. I wouldn't imagine he'd hit him at a super high clip, but if that even adds just a modicum of spacing to that offense with adding a point guard to those 3 guys, obviously Durant, Booker, and Beal.
Mm-hmm.
If their spacing is a little bit better, they have a point guard now. If Beal can get close, to who he's been over the course of his career, they could be really good. They may even be higher than this. I've seen some people that are in the know that know what they're talking about, picking them in the top 3 or 4 and saying they might have a chance to win the conference.
Nah.
I don't think they're going to be that good.
Not so fast, my friend.
I think they're going to be good. I've got them at 6.
I mean, I actually have Phoenix at them.
Do you want to say something on the Suns, or do you want to go to your 6
also? And I do think they're going to be better than last year.
Okay.
But kind of amazingly, they were 6 last year too. So I just don't see the problem is in the West.
That's
who are they going to jump? They could be ahead of Sacramento, who I have at 5. But yeah, with them, who knows? With those stars, are they going to struggle? At what point in the season are they going to struggle? Is it going to be a bad start? Is it going to be beef in the middle of the year? It's always something with them.
They'll have a bad stretch, I think. Yeah. Yeah, no, they're one of the more interesting teams in my opinion, just because of the age and the roster doesn't really, it's not a perfect fit on paper, kind of, and it could go really good, I think. It could go not so good, but yeah. Okay, so there's Suns at 6. Jace, 6th seed in the East. What do you have there?
6 in the East for me. I feel like this is going to be pretty different than what y'all may have said. I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Wow. I think, obviously, adding Paul George, that's a pretty, blockbuster move to make. But I think having Maxey and PG both out there, I kind of think we're going to see Joel Embiid's production drop a little bit. I do have in my notes that I think this is the most likely pick that I miss on. But I don't know. I just don't. I know everybody's talking about them adding PG being like the perfect piece that they were missing. I don't think so. I kind of think he's going to mess with the flow of their offense. Like I think he's going to play a little bit faster than what Embiid likes to play, and quite a bit slower than how Maxey likes to play. So I think a lot of the times he's just going to get like caught in the middle, and I think that's going to kind of hurt their flow as the season progresses.
I've got to say, I had a last-minute change, and I have him 6-2.
Welcome.
I have him 6-2. And it probably would have been different for me if we had recorded even just like a few days prior to this. But I heard recently Embiid say he's probably never going to play a back-to-back ever again.
Saw that too.
With the Paul George knee thing that just happened in that most recent, or not their most recent, but the most recent game that he played in the preseason, I don't think it's bad or anything, but it's a factor now that I think you have to consider. I don't think they're going to finish higher than 4 in this conference. I don't see any way with those guys playing only sometimes. And I mean, if you look at like advanced stats, Paul George was like roughly a top 10 player.
And Paul George
when he's out there.
is
like Paul George is like really good. Yeah, he's always good. Like situation, he's always really good.
Small Paul George shirt that I have.
It comes down to health for me. Like I just don't think they're going to be healthy enough.
Yeah.
But when they get in the playoffs, they're going to be tough. It could pay off in a big way. Like even if they are 6th, if they're healthy and ready to go in the playoffs, they could be scary. So that's where I've got them. And who do you got 6th in the East?
I mean, I had Philly on my mind because I have them top 4 and not 4. But at 6, I got Cleveland.
Ooh.
And I don't even have much to say about Cleveland.
Well, if you want to talk Philly, go ahead.
It is true. Like they may not get in the top 4 because of like the lack of games played. I could definitely see that. But that's going to be an issue for those top teams. If they have to play Philly first round, that's going to be tough. Because I think at full strength,
absolutely,
they're at the top
absolutely.
of the East, minus Boston and New York probably.
Oh, yeah, they're a top 3 roster in the East without question if they're like fully healthy.
And we had said this earlier whenever we were talking about the Suns, with how a lot of teams now don't really care where they make it into the playoffs as long as they make it. And I think that could be like Philly could be like the perfect team for that this year.
We say that, but I didn't look at this. I don't know for sure, but I would bet that is not a wise thing, like philosophy, to be like, we'll just make it in. We can beat anybody. We don't care if we're 7 or 3. Or whatever. I bet that doesn't work out too well.
I don't agree with it. I think that's a terrible game plan, but I think kind of how they're constructed and like the concerns we've talked about.
Right. I do agree with that.
That could
too.
be kind of how it winds up for them.
Okay, so that's 6. So we're in the top 5 now, right?
Yeah. The real meat and potatoes.
Okay, Ant, let's go over to you.
Potatoes. That sounds pretty good.
5 seed in the East. Let's stay in the East. 5 seed in the East.
Man, I'm tired of talking about the East because I'm a Western guy. But I got Indiana. I think the Pacers are good. Pacers are
Indiana
good.
5.
The Pacers had a really big year last year because of like the All-Star game being there, all those guys that were in like the skills competition. Like last year was a big year for them. Like I just don't see them taking a leap, like into like serious contender types of conversations. Who knows? But
so you're kind of predicting like a regression
from them
a little bit.
Let me see what they finished last year. They were 6th, and I got them 5th this year. So not really a regression. Just I feel like they've kind of peaked.
Yeah. on a regression.
Yeah. Well, actually.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad pick by any means. I don't think.
What about y'all?
Again, I haven't said Indiana yet, y'all, and I'm not gonna say I'm here. I've got the Bucks at 5.
It's not going to happen. Whoa, Bucks at 5.
I've got the Bucks at 5. Yeah,
You know, Giannis is still playing for them.
I mean, I do. Yeah, believe me. Y'all know how I feel about Giannis.
Hey, before
yeah, go ahead,
you get
Jace.
into it, can I ask one question about you having the Bucks here?
Yeah.
Like, in terms of like a percentage, how much of this decision was made based on Doc Rivers being the head coach?
Like 75%.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I had written down on my notes. No disrespect, no disrespect. I don't want to talk about like negative stuff and like this guy sucks and everything, but that is a factor.
Yeah.
Like that is a factor.
Yeah.
It is a factor. They're worse. They canned a guy, hired him. They were worse.
Yeah, I
after.
forgot about that.
Okay. So that has to be a factor when you think about them. And the Dame thing, it still feels weird to me. Like I kept thinking throughout last year, like it's gonna click, like they're gonna get this thing to work. It just feels like I think it might just be as simple as like he doesn't want to be there in Milwaukee. He just had his heart set on Miami. He doesn't like the setup, even though he's playing with Giannis. I think their roster is still pretty good. Giannis is still really, really, really good. But just with the coaching and everything that's around, I don't know. I just think there's better teams. They're good. Nobody's going to want to see them in a series. But, like, yeah, got to put them at 5. Got to.
I don't hate that. My 5th seed in the East is where I have Cleveland.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I think the big things we've already covered. How you mentioned them thinking Mobley's, they want him to try to take an offensive leap this year. I think he's going to, which you know that I watched a lot of the Cavs last year. I agree that the 3-point jumper is kind of like, is it real? Like whenever he makes them, like I don't love the form, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing every time he shoots it.
Yeah.
Like the form,
true.
Seems like he believes in it and that it's working for him. So like if he's able to, I don't know, shoot like 3 a game.
Yeah.
Like I think that's really going to open up.
Yeah, like shoot 3 or 4 and make 1 or 2.
Yeah, because he can beat those big guys off the dribble on the perimeter all day. And so I think if he does just commit to like attempting more, I think that's going to open driving lanes a ton for him and like could possibly kind of push him into that next level of players.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I've kind of lost my track. I think we're at 5 in the West now, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Ant, let's go to you. Who you got 5 in the West? You haven't had a team yet, Anthony, that you really wanted to talk about. Who is it that you really
we're
want
not
to
there
talk
yet.
about?
We
don't have to be at 5, but
5 is Sacktown for me.
Okay, that's all you got to say.
It's like the beam.
Okay, Sacramento. Yes, nice.
I think
Another Kings
they
believer.
underachieved last year, but they've been better. Like Fox and Sabonis are all-star guys. Like they're really good. DeRozan, Keegan, and who am I forgetting? Malik Monk. Like great coaching, great fan base. Like
Monk,
they could.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too much about the Mavericks because we'll get to them later. But
we're gonna.
Stop asking.
We're gonna.
But no, I if I were to pick a hot take, I think the Kings could finish above the Mavs. I'm high on the Kings.
Oh wow!
Wow.
I don't think so, but that's cool. I love it. I want to say one thing. You brought up Fox, Ant. This is kind of a prove-it year for Fox because he's extension eligible, But the word is that he's not going to take this short-term extension, short-term max extension. He wants a whole enchilada. So it's kind of a prove it year for Fox. I think he's having a really good year.
I think he's really good. And I would love a 4 or 5 matchup with Dallas and Sacramento. Dallas trying to play in Sacktown without home court advantage. Like, I'm just saying, like, everyone's high on the Mavs, and Luka's a Hall of Famer already.
I don't know. Well, those three, yeah.
Wow, how crazy would that be if
Luka is already a Hall of Famer?
Pump the brakes. But I'm just saying, wouldn't that be something if the Mavs lost first round because of that matchup that they get?
That would be crazy, man. I don't think that's going to happen. But I like that. Like that. I do thinking on that, like in theory, the Kings would have some, like if they did like Fox, Monk, DeRozan backcourt lineups, that'd be pretty difficult for the Mavs to defend, I think, on paper. But I don't know. I don't have the Mavs at 4. I've got them higher than that. But cool. Okay, so that was Kings at 5. Jace, did you give your Western 5 yet?
I have not. I think I can be pretty quick on my 5, though. So
okay.
My 5, I have Denver. I still have them like in my top tier of teams in the West.
I've got Denver at 5 too.
Yeah, but I don't know. I kind of think that the Jokic MVP after he won it last year, I think it's done. Like, I don't think
he's not. He's going to have to go nuclear to win another one. Yeah.
And because of that, I think he's going to really kind of sail a little bit. Like, he's going to make sure they're winning. But in terms of, like, his own stats, I think we're going to see those, kind of cool off. My sweet boy, Russell Westbrook.
We all love Russ here.
He's going to be there.
We all do.
Bring that 6 man of the year, Brody. We believe in you. Last thing I want to say about them, Peyton Watson and Christian Brown. I'll save the third one for you, Rhett.
Thanks. I was hoping you would. Yeah.
But Peyton Watson and Christian Brown, I really like them, especially on the defensive end. I think with KCP gone, they're going to get more usage, more run. And I think both those guys are going to be really impactful for him, really helpful.
Yeah, so like I said, I've got the Nuggets at 5 too. I just like the Nuggets. I love Jokic. I like the way they've done that, built that team. I like the Nuggets. I do have them at 5. I think it's going to be kind of a tough regular season this year. KCP, losing him, I think, was pretty big. Jamal kind of looks a little shaky at the moment. I'm not super worried about it yet. The Olympics weren't great. Preseason hadn't been great for Jamal. They're going to obviously really, really need him this year. I think he'll be fine, but, that's a factor. Russ, like you said, Jace, I think he's going to play a decently big role in this team. And that's kind of interesting to me. Like, I think there's probably going to be an adjustment period there just because they've played so slow the past few years. And obviously that's not Russ's game.
Right.
There's a couple ways to look at it. Either it's like a conflict there, or maybe it's just a, kind of a curveball, change of pace type thing that works really well. Could see it going either way. But yeah, Strother's my guy on this team. I think he's the guy that's going to step up. I do want to mention Brown too. I think he's like borderline kind of already proven role player kind of guy.
Yeah,
I like him.
I think last year was a big kind of breakout type year for him.
But yeah, Strother, he's looked really good to me in what I've seen. And again, it's preseason, but I think the shooting is pretty real. He's big enough, I think, to where he can stay on the floor on the defensive end. But the thing to me that's kind of like goes under the radar with him is he seems to be a really fast processor to me. Like, he's a snappy decision maker. He's not really a ball handling type of guy, like obviously not a lead guard kind of guy. But, when it comes to making the decisions off the catch, I think he's been pretty good in that from what I've seen. If that carries over, I think that'll be a big boost for them. But yeah, we kind of have a difference of philosophy on Jokic. I think Jokic is still
best
player in the NBA.
Jokic,
I agree.
We're sleeping on, like, this guy. how many? He's got 3 MVPs. He's a champ. It really depends on Jamal Murray, but the Nuggets, like, it's not crazy to pick the Nuggets to win the West.
Yeah.
Like, they're the Nuggets. Like, yeah, we just like them. They're good.
I don't either. No, even though I will say, even though I've got them at 5, I would not be shocked if they won this conference. Yeah. I totally agree, Anthony. Cool. Okay. So we're in the top 4 now, y'all. So this is our home court teams. Let's start with the East. Jace, who do you got at 4 in the East?
Yes, sir. My number 4 team in the East is the Orlando Magic.
Me too.
I think that they're still kind of building, kind of putting like their contending roster together. But KCP, we were just talking about Denver. I think he's going to be a big help for him. Even with him, I do think that they're still missing like a little bit of shooting. But I think they're going to have one of the best defenses in the NBA. I think Paolo, I don't think you would really call it a breakout, but I think he gets like a little more consistent, a little more like go to his spots, like get to his spots, use his own moves. Like, I think he's just going to be a lot more comfortable on offense consistently this year, which is really going to help him and the Magic competing up there at the top of the East.
Yeah, so I've got the Magic at 4 too. You talked about KCP. Love that addition. I think they're going to be really, really good defensively. I love Suggs. He's not a perfect player, but for them, I think he's a great, great piece. Really good defender. I think he's going to kind of evolve a little bit on the offensive end this season. This is his 3rd year, right?
3rd or 4th.
This is 4th. Yeah, so that 3rd or 4th year is like we saw that Kobe White breakout. Like, this is the time where like guards can kind of start to put it together. Smaller guards like that. I think he's going to be a little bit better on the offensive end. This is probably my favorite over out of all of them. They're at 47.5. I'm not a gambling man myself, but I do like that over. I think they're going to get over that. The guy for me is Franz. It was really like baffling to me that people seemed confused on that Franz extension that he signed in the offseason. That was a no-brainer, right?
I remember me and you were
he earned that.
Like, yeah, we were like, we're not tripping, are we? Like, he's good.
Yeah, no, he's really good.
Yeah,
and, like,
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, like he's a different player than Paolo. Like, obviously Paolo's the guy, but if you look at the advanced stuff, they liked him a little bit better offensively than Paolo. Like they're pretty close.
Yeah,
I personally think Paolo has the edge. Like, he's a little bit better player, but Franz is really good, really, really good. So yeah, love the Magic. Think 4. Yeah. Anthony, who do you got there? 4 in the East.
Yeah, the Magic, like, that's a cute pick, but Milwaukee is still, like, Giannis is just going to dunk on all of those guys that you mentioned in Orlando. Like, it's Giannis. Like,
that's very fair.
I understand everything you said. The Dame thing is still weird. Doc Rivers is still Doc Rivers. Like, I don't think that'll hurt them until the playoffs. Like, I don't think they're going to win the East or come close, but just fair, as a regular season team, like, I think Giannis, I think he'll take things seriously and just be like, hey, I'm like, remember me type of guy.
He will. He's going to be really good.
I still got them top 4.
Hey, before we jump over to the West, can I kind of piggyback off of that? Because I have the Bucks as my number 3 team in the East. Kind of what you were saying there at the end, Anthony. I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about Giannis.
I agree, which is really crazy.
And
maybe I'm one of them, but I don't think so.
I think he's going to be coming for heads this year. And, like, not a big believer in Doc. The Dame thing is weird, yada, yada, yada. Same thing we've all said. But Giannis, just like, my goodness.
It might not matter. Yeah.
When he's on fire, like, he can make whatever happen. And I think it's going to be enough to get him to the 3 seed in the East this year.
And Pat Bev is gone.
But
cool.
That's all I wanted to say on that.
Pat Bev is gone.
Amen.
Yes,
Amen.
Pat Bev is gone. Okay, yeah. With all that being said, 4 in the West. Ant, who do you have 4 in the West?
I got Dallas.
You kind of alluded to it when you were talking about 5. Yeah, you already said Dallas.
I think they're. I don't know.
Is the Derrick Jones thing that big of a deal?
I don't know, man. It's
because basically they kind of replaced Derrick Jones with like Clay and Najee, right?
Yeah,
Najee Marshall.
I don't know. I just see a very similar Dallas team to last year, and like I don't want to call it like a fluke that they made it all the way to the finals, but yeah, they broke through. I just
this dude is hating.
I'm not hating. I'm just saying.
I gotta disagree with you,
see
man.
them being higher than 4.
I got to.
Yeah, let's have the Dallas comp up.
I'm gonna go ahead and do my Mavs thing. I've got the Mavs at 3. I think it's gonna be really close between 2 and 3, which we'll get to here in a minute in the West. I am mixed on the Clay thing. However, the 2-guard lineups with Clay at small forward were really good for Golden State last year. And obviously the 2 guards that he's going to be playing with in Dallas, I think the 2 of them together are probably better than the 2-guard lineups that they had, even with Steph. I think Luka, y'all may not like this, but I think Luka is like the best player in the NBA. Best individual player in the NBA. I'm kind of worried about the Clay, Kyrie, Luka defense, but Najee Marshall, like I said, is a really good pickup. Yeah, when he heard me say the Luka thing, he's like, I'm leaving. But yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be really, really, really good again. And the series, I think the series with us was their toughest playoff series. Obviously, the Celtics is like an outlier. Like they were just a beast last year. Like nobody was going to be able to do anything with them. But they took pretty good care of Minnesota. But it wasn't just like lucky that they beat us. They did stuff that made it tough for us, and they just beat us. They had some good bounce. The PJ Washington thing, he got pretty hot. Obviously, that's like a little uncharacteristic, but that wasn't the only reason why they won. Like they beat us. Obviously, like you said, Ant, there's some changes. But yeah, I think they're going to be really good. Luka is going to be on a mission. Like we're going to see some insane stuff from Luka this season. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I've got, and I've got Grizzlies at 4 just to kind of get back on it. And Jace, we can go over to you and you can either talk Mavs or just give us your 4 from there. But you pretty much covered everything I had on the Grizzlies, Jace. I think Jaw's on a mission. I think Jenkins is really good. I'd be surprised if this team's not a 4 seed if they're healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what I can do, I have the Mavericks at 3, so I'll cover my 4 and then just go straight into 3 in the West if that's cool with y'all.
Yeah, let's do that.
So my 4 in the West, I have Phoenix. I have the Suns. Last year, whenever they had their big 3 playing, I thought that, they looked like a contender. The big thing that I thought was so weird for them last year was whenever they were having Devin Booker run the point, which, he's good enough to do, but I don't think that's really maximizing what he can be. Yeah. And now that they've added Tyus Jones and Monte Morris. So they have legitimate point guards, not great players, but good point guards.
I think Tyus Jones is pretty good.
Yeah.
He's not bad.
He can run the show for sure. And I think that's going to open up a ton for Devin Booker. I think Booker will finish the season top 5 in MVP.
Wow.
I think
I would be surprised, but that's mostly just due to the fact that I don't
everybody
have
else.
enough games. But if they're that high, he's probably should. I mean, he's going to have to be like monster for them to be that high.
Yeah,
so, yeah, that makes sense.
I think that the moves that they made is like really going to help them. I still don't love Nurkic at the 5. I don't really know what they could do with it. If they could trade him or if they would even be interested. But
I don't think they could. Just given the assets, I'd be shocked, and the salary structure and everything.
Right.
I don't think they're going to be able
right.
to. Yeah.
And I don't love that at the 5. Last thing I want to touch on with them, I'm a big fan of both of their rookies, Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd talk about Ryan Dunn especially.
I wanted to share a stat that I told Rhett earlier. I was just curious today because, he's been like lighting it up from 3. So I was looking at his stats, and in 4 preseason games, he's made more 3-pointers than he did in his whole career in college. And to be fair, it's like 12 in the NBA compared to 11 in college. So it's not huge, but regardless of that, if he's an actual shooter, he is like good.
Yeah, if he can do that, it'd be really good. I think it's at this point in the preseason, it's more of an anomaly,
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to count on it.
I don't know what it means, but
yeah,
if he can do it like a little bit, like if he shot 35% from 3, and doing what he's able to do on defense and like as a cutter, playing off their other 3 good offensive initiators, like he could be an awesome player his rookie year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But that's really all that I have to say on the Suns at 4. So jumping up to 3, that's where I have the Mavs. 2 and 3, especially in the West, I think it's going to be real similar to what we saw with 1, 2, and 3 in the West last year, where it's like a last day of the season thing to kind of see where they're going to end up.
Yeah.
I think Luka is probably kind of annoyed with not getting an MVP. I think he is going to be working very hard for that this year. And that usually for the Mavs results in winning.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like one of the best offensive seasons of all time.
So it'll be a monster year in Dallas, I think. Lively, eventually, I don't know if this is a day one thing, but like Lively will be starting for them.
I'm sure he'll start day 1.
I would guess so, but if he doesn't, he will.
I'm with you. Yeah.
If Clay,
he's good too, by the way.
Yeah, he is good.
Yeah,
he is good. But last thing for me with the Mavs, Clay's got to straighten up.
I think he will.
Yeah,
it was
bad situation there at the end for him in Golden State. But if he'll just keep his head on right, he'll be a lot better than he was last year. And could help him. I feel like that's pretty debatable at the moment, but I think he'll help. But that's my 3.
Okay, yeah, and I have the Mavs at 3, like I said before, but I think it's going to be really close between them and the team I have at number 2, like you said, Jace.
Mm-hmm.
Those top 3 teams, I think, in both conferences are going to be really, really good. And did we talk about your 3 in the West yet?
No, I have Denver. I just think they're
Denver. Okay.
And we're just talking regular season, which is why it's hard to think with the playoffs fresh in our mind. We know
that's
the
right.
Mavs can match up. They match up.
Yeah.
They played great against Minnesota, beat them in 5.
They waxed them.
Well, I mean, they're all close games. Except for the 5th game. But
they won in 5.
Yeah, but they're all close games. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, well, they're not going to have Rudy Gobert guarding Luka on the last play of the game. And Minnesota probably shouldn't have even
valid argument
because the Nuggets blew the 20-point lead in the second half of Game 7. It should have been the Nuggets anyway. But it's a new year. Regular season wise, I think I fear Denver more. That's why I have them at 3 instead of 4. But yeah, that top 4 in the West is going to be awesome to keep track of all year.
It's gonna be brutal, man. All those teams are really good. All right, are we 3 in the East?
Yep.
Should we just do
I wanna
like
start
1,
here.
2, 3?
I've got.
Or is it too soon for that?
No, I want to do
Yeah,
one at the
okay.
end. I want to do one at the end. I've got the Pacers at 3.
That's super high, man. That's super
Is
high.
that crazy?
That's pretty confident, bro.
So the main thing is here, like you said, I think y'all both kind of touched on this point. Like, they weren't great defensively last year. I don't think they're going to be a great defensive team again. But if they're around average, they're going to be nuclear. If they're around average defense, which I think they can, because they traded for Pascal in the middle of the season, unless I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Am I right?
That was a mid-season trade, I believe.
Yeah. So obviously, like, there's an adjustment period there, and full season with all that stuff in place, they're going to be good. Like, I think they're going to be elite offense. Playing in that conference, they're probably going to have the best numbers offensively in the NBA by a pretty wide margin, I would imagine. I think Hallie is a top 10 player in the league. He might be better than that. Is that crazy?
I think
he's
I would
Steve Nash.
probably. That actually makes a lot.
I think he's that good. Yeah, like I think he's that good.
I don't think that I would probably have him top 10, but I would be very surprised if he wasn't in my top 15.
As a caveat, I'm saying, I think if you look at what happened last year, he's not top 10. He was hurt. I'm just saying, I think this coming season, he's a top 10 player at least.
Gotcha.
At least. Yeah. I think he might be better than that. I think he's really, really, really good. I think they're going to be good. And it really just mostly comes down to him. Pascal's a big thing. I think they're pretty deep, especially in the backcourt. They got Nembhard and McConnell kind of sort of backing him up. Like, I think Nembhard's probably going to start. Jace, I think you kind of touched on it. We talked about it when you were talking about the Pacers, but Jarris Walker, if he can give them anything, that's just even more depth. I think they're going to be really good. I really like the Pacers.
I like that. That's fun. My number 3 team in the East is not as fun. And I don't really need to spend much time on them because we've all talked about them quite a bit, but I have the Bucks. Number 3.
Let's go Bucks.
Like I was saying, I think Giannis is coming for heads. I did want to ask y'all about a potential trade.
Nice.
I haven't found an exact trade. I've received no trade offers. But do y'all think that this could be the year where the Bucks would potentially move off of Brook Lopez?
I wouldn't if I were them. I think he's their, outside of Giannis, obviously, who's really, really great. He's their defensive infrastructure.
I agree.
I think they need him.
But if the Dame stuff is still weird, I kind of feel like they might, move Giannis kind of back to more of an anchor, and
he can do that probably,
and potentially look to move Brook out for somebody who can run the floor better, maybe another grab and go type of guy,
more modern, type center.
Yeah, just kind of pick up their pace of play because that's
I don't know,
beneficial for Giannis.
It wouldn't be crazy. I've always liked Brook. I still like Brook. I wouldn't want to trade him. What do you think?
I like Brook too. I don't know. It'll be interesting. The Bucks this year.
I could see them doing something like that. I don't think it would be a wise move.
They got to switch it up.
Have to do something. Yeah, right. I don't know. That's an interesting thought, certainly.
And I don't, necessarily think that is what they should do, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting thought before the season starts.
No, it is for sure. We'll keep tabs on it.
Will do.
Ant, who you got 3 in the
Philly.
East?
maybe not because of Embiid, but Paul George. And Philly, it's like, man, they got to, like, they've been waiting, like, to make a big push, like, for people to take them serious. I mean, although Embiid's already got his MVP. And yeah, I don't know how many games he'll play. And he did the Olympics, he was getting booed, which is kind of funny. But, like, they're still good. Like,
Yeah.
And in the East, it's a toss-up. I've been thinking about the Pacers ever since Rhett had them at 3. Because, like, how exciting and, like, good is their offense, that leads to regular season success. Like, straight up. And the Sixers, their game plan of resting their guys.
That's my thought, yeah.
And all of that is the opposite. So, I got the Sixers at 3, but it could be they could limp into the playoffs. And then make the claim that, oh, you don't want to face us. But in reality, like, they haven't put it together by the time the playoffs start.
Right.
Hi, everybody. We're back. We experienced some technical difficulties towards the end of our first recording. We got through the 3 seeds for both conferences there at the end. So we're just going to go ahead and record our thoughts on the top 2 for the East and West here. Then we'll wrap up this episode. On to the next. So, yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with the Eastern Conference 2 seed. Jace, who do you have there for the East 2 seed?
Absolutely. In the number 2 seed in the East for me, I went with the New York Knicks.
Same for me.
Yep.
One of the better teams in the East last year. I think it's pretty clear that they got better over the offseason. Obviously, the 2 big moves for them were adding Mikal Bridges and Cat. Mikal Bridges out on the perimeter with OG, I think, is trouble for, like, every team in the NBA, defensively at least. Mikal, Rhett, I know me and you have been high on him since he was, playing in Phoenix early on in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of his. I don't think it's all going to be super smooth early on in the season, especially factoring in Cat into the offense. But once they get that all figured out, which I think they will be able to, I think he's going to fit pretty well with Tibbs on offense. So it may not get off to like a super quick start, but I do think they're going to be up there, be one of the better teams in the East and just in the whole league, honestly.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. Obviously, I think Cat's like a pretty significant addition, really big upgrade offensively for sure. I do think he can stand up defensively there. I think a lot of people would say that was probably a problem with him in Minnesota, and that's not without warrant, of course. But like you said, Jace, they're going to be so good on defensively on the perimeter, especially Anunoby. He's looked unreal. And we are recording this, with the benefit of like having gone through the whole preseason and everything. And I know it's preseason. But one thing I wanted to mention on Bridges, like you said, I am a big fan of Bridges, especially in this role where with the Knicks, he's not going to have to be the number 1 offensive option, of course. He's probably the 3rd at best, obviously with Cat, like I said. But he has a mechanic problem in his shot right now, and it looks really,
like Kyle
really
Anderson right now.
Yeah, it looks really bad.
It's like, I don't know, out of nowhere.
This isn't
seriously, it's
shot
weird.
Better now.
Yeah, it's really strange. And like, I didn't watch a ton of him last year with Brooklyn. Obviously, I watched him a time or two, but like, I never noticed that being a problem before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to monitor. I mean, you don't really want the guy you just gave up 5 first-round picks for to like not be able to knock down shots from the perimeter, because that's kind of the main thing he's going to need to do on the offensive end for them. Space for Brunson. But yeah, Brunson is still the main thing for me here with these guys. I mean, if you look at like advanced statistics, he was a top 6 player in terms of EPM. He was better in that statistic than guys like LeBron, Paul George, Kawhi, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese, Steph, Devin Booker, elite player. I don't think he always gets the respect he deserves just because it's kind of an unconventional style of play, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think the Knicks are still really deep, really good in the front court, going to be good defensively, have a lot of offensive pop. So they're very well-rounded. Expect them to be very, very good.
And just to
did you have something?
Add something on to the Brunson conversation. I didn't mention this, but I think if they do wind up as high and as successful as we're thinking they could, I would not be surprised at all if Brunson was like top 5 in MVP voting this season.
I expect that. Yeah.
A lot of eyes are going to be on the Knicks, and kind of narrative stuff I think is going to kind of turn a corner for him this year if they are what we expect him to be.
I mean, last year he really took that jump. I don't know if he made first team All-NBA. I think he missed out. He was definitely an East starter.
He was second team. Game. Yeah.
Yeah, and he definitely was in top 10 MVP voting. I don't know exactly where he finished, but yeah, he's going to be top 5, I think also. The Knicks still deep, great coaching, great defense. So it's going to be a fun year in New York.
In the Garden, baby.
In the Big Apple.
That's right. Okay, let's go over to 2 in the West. Ant, let's stay with you there. Second seed in the West. Who do you got?
I got Minnesota. Minnesota!
Same.
Because, dude, Ant Edwards, he's such a beast. I saw something on Twitter earlier that was like he wants to win a championship and then go play football. Like he's just.
I just saw that too.
Just like all around, like he's so funny and really good. I know they like miss Cat, but they got some good pieces too to make themselves deeper. Naz Reid's gonna have a bigger role. Everyone loves him, so I think they're gonna be right up there competing for first in the West again.
And
yeah, I had Minnesota there too. Sorry, Jace, go ahead.
I was just going to say I also had Minnesota too. And piggybacking off what Ant says, especially with Naz Reid, I'm expecting him to take another leap. I think his usage is going to increase. Without the 2 center lineups, I think that's really going to open up the floor for him. More importantly, open up the floor for Anthony Edwards to, continue growing as a player, keep getting better. My big question mark for them is how Julius Randle is going to fit in there.
That was one of the notes I had written down. Like, what's his role? That's the big question for me, too.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that it's, like, too big of a concern at the moment. But, just
it's almost like an icing on the cake situation, right?
Yeah, potentially, I think he's a good player. It's just, the question of the fit, how they're going to use him, where he's going to plug in, like in the hierarchy there. But all in all, I feel pretty confident that they'll be the 2 seed, but I think it's going to be close, mainly between them and Dallas for where they're going to finish up. But that at the moment, I'm going with the Timberwolves.
Yeah, so obviously I have the Timberwolves there too. Y'all touched on most of the main things for me, and I agree with you, Jason, that I think it's going to be a really tight race between Dallas and Minnesota in terms of who gets that 2 seed. Y'all touched on the Randall thing. Y'all touched on the Ant thing. Obviously, I think the idea of the trade was to kind of open things up for Ant. And again, like I said just a second ago, we've gone through all preseason. We've seen some of it now. And obviously try to take those games with a grain of salt. But one thing that has really jumped out to me, and I just can't help but mention it, is Ant from 3. Like the stroke looks great to me, And one thing it seems that he's made a concerted effort to do in this preseason is increase his volume. Mm-hmm. So if he's increasing that volume by 2 or 3 attempts a game, and he can stay around where he was at. I'm not sure what it was right offhand, to be honest. Probably should have done that research. But anyway, I trust him to knock him down at a pretty decent clip. And if he's going to give them, 6 more points a game than he did last year, that's a huge jump. That's an amazing jump. So I think they're going to be really good. I do think the trade kind of opens things up for him, especially on the offensive end. I saw someone on Twitter saying, like, kind of floating the idea, and I'm forgetting who it was now, so sorry about that. But he was saying he thinks that both teams in that trade feel like they kind of fleeced the other, because both of those players were kind of viewed by those organizations as good players, of course, but kind of problematic in terms of what they want to do schematically, and mainly opening things up for those lead guards, So we'll see how that goes. I honestly feel like the Minnesota part of that trade, it does feel to me like more of a long-term move. Does it feel that way to y'all? Am I off base there? Like more salary focused than anything else.
See, the way that I would kind of view it in the long term really just kind of circles back to Anthony Edwards being the guy that they are like fully focusing on, because whether or not you like Cat's game, like he's a pretty effective player.
He's a great offensive player.
Yeah, and like a really useful piece. So if they were willing to ship him off, to kind of lock more in on Anthony Edwards' success, I think that they've, definitely found the big kind of cornerstone going forward.
Yeah, certainly. You have anything you want to add there, Ant?
No, I think it's time to get to the number ones.
Okay, let's get to the number ones. Jace, let's go back over to the East for you. So who do you have finishing first this year in the Eastern Conference?
Yep, I don't think this is really a surprise to anyone. I'm going with Boston again. I think they could take, like a tiny step back in the regular season. But all in all, I think that they're still kind of hands down the top team in the NBA. I don't necessarily think that they're the deepest team, but the level of guys that they have up top, I think, is pretty overwhelming. Weird situation this summer with everything with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like Team USA, all of that drama, whatever. But I think those two guys are one of the best duos in the NBA two-way. Don't really view either one of them as probably, well, this is more about Tatum than anything. I don't really think I would look at him as like a top 5 guy in the NBA right now, but they're good, man. They have their system figured out so well. They have so many pieces that fit into it super well. We'll talk more about what I think of them in our next episode. But at the moment, I look at them as the best team in the NBA, especially in the East. But they're really good. I think it's going to be interesting to monitor, like, how often they play and rest Kristaps Porzingis, because he's super valuable for them. I think he totally changes what they are as a team. But we'll see if they can repeat. Me and you, Rhett, before we recorded this, we're just talking about how hard it is to repeat. But I kind of think how they're constructed, they should still be seen as the favorites to do it.
They're in a great position to do it, for sure. Yeah. What about you, Ant? Who do you have first in the East?
Oh, I got Boston. And the more I look at you guys, I'm thinking, man, I should have shaved the beard just to leave the mustache.
Yeah, this is pure coincidence. We did not plan this out. If you're watching on YouTube,
Brotherhood, baby.
Would have been perfect. But no, I got Boston because, yes, you would think there's usually a drop off after you win it all because you lose pieces. You go all in on that, and they went all in like last year. Like they were laser focused. Tatum all the way down, and they didn't lose anyone. Like, yeah, there's some, interesting stuff with the Olympic stuff, like Derek White and Tatum being there, but not the finals MVP, Jaylen Brown. But I think everyone's over that by now. Probably, if anything that just makes Jaylen Brown play better to like try to prove himself. Like, I'm number one.
I agree.
But Tatum's not a guy that's like, no, it's my team. Like, he will kind of step back, I feel like, and just do what's best for the team. He's still the number one guy, I'd say. But regular season team, they're really good, and they have so much playoff experience, and they've been to the mountaintop. Like, they should be right there again this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have the Celtics as well in the first seed there. You touched on it really well, Ant, but that's the big thing for me is that they were somehow able to get everybody back. And we've seen it, Denver is the team that I think about. They've kind of been the last 2 years really have lost a couple of significant pieces from that title team that was so great, Boston didn't. So just amazing, stuff from that front office. Of course, that's not a new idea. Everybody knows that front office is pretty much the class of the NBA. Every lineup they played last season for at least 100 possessions, they had a positive point differential. So obviously that's like pretty good. There was only one other team in the NBA did that last season. I'm going to talk about them in just a second. And the one part of the Celtics that I kind of differ from y'all on, I think, is I don't think they're going to be as good in the regular season as they were last year. I do obviously still think they're going to finish at the top, but I think this roster is more so suited to the playoffs, especially given KP's health.
Right.
I don't even know that this is like a really hot take, and I'm not trying to say that he's the best player, but I think that having Porzingis healthy and ready to go he's their most important player in that regard. Just everything that he's able to do. Obviously, they're so good defensively on the perimeter, but the rim protection, stretching that floor out so wide on the offensive end like he does. If he's healthy, they're just pretty much – it's really hard to beat him if he's healthy and ready to go. Tatum, I do want to talk about him. Like Anthony said really well, I thought like he was really willing in the playoffs this year to kind of change his game from what it typically is and make sure that they were going to be successful as a team. If you look at his stats for the playoffs, he had a big fall off from what he did obviously he was a first team All-NBA guy and everything. There was a big fall off for him in the playoffs. Everything except for playmaking, passing and assist and moving the ball around and making sure the ball's in the right spot. That was really impressive to me. It was at times it felt like, we're going to just take him away and make the other guys beat us. And he was okay with that. He never seemed like he forced it. He got a lot of flack because he had some stat lines that didn't look like a player of his caliber in the playoffs, but they won and they won pretty easily. That's the thing for me. So I mentioned that lineup differential for them. Do y'all know who the other team was that was positive for every lineup that played 100 or more possessions?
I fear that I do. But really quick before we get into that.
Okay, yeah.
That's a pretty smooth transition, I'm assuming.
Thanks. Yeah.
Tatum, how you were talking about his playmaking in the playoffs with the scoring kind of taking a little bit of a backseat at times. That was not a one-off thing. Like, we've seen him do that in the playoffs before. And I completely agree that is an awesome thing to have from kind of, your number one option on offense. Because if teams do sell out and are just going to try to make
that's
Boston
not a good
shooters
approach.
Beat them. Yeah, he can do it. And he's shown it like multiple times, and that's very promising for sure. But back to you.
Yeah, so the only other team that had that lineup differential last year was Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma City Thunder. That's who I have finishing first in the West. Now, going back to having watched the whole preseason, right? We all know, all three of us know, and I'm sure everybody knows, that we've had two pretty significant injuries in the preseason for our team. Hartenstein is going to be out about a month. He'll likely miss about 20 games. Dub also now is out with the ankle, and
day to day, thank goodness.
Right, that sounds a little bit less serious. That's going to be day to day, so hopefully that's not too many games. But that's going to hurt. Of course, those are two really good, really important players to our team. But the depth is just the main thing for me here. Re-signing Wiggins and Joe, two really good role players. Coming into Chet's second, third, however you want to classify that season, after a great rookie season, the first year that he played. And I mean, kind of like the Knicks, for the really good teams, I think it always comes down to that guy. Like, who is your guy and how good is your guy? Our guy's pretty good. Shay's pretty good. Last year with the 30-plus points per game on 50% shooting from the field, there's only 3 guys who have done that. Do y'all know who they are? Shay's one of them, obviously.
All time?
All time. Yeah, 3 guys have done that all time.
Michael Jordan.
I believe that one of them is Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan did it 5 or 6 times, I think.
Right. Yeah. Who's the other guy?
Steph Curry. So that's a pretty good season.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah. MVP worthy season.
MVP worthy season, I would certainly agree. Just the lineup versatility with this team. Missing Hartenstein does kind of affect that. But once we're fully healthy, assuming we can get there, we can go big, we can go small. And I did want to say one thing specific to Hartenstein. I was looking through some of his stats in preparation for this and taking into account what I've seen from him last year with the Knicks and in preseason this year. And I think kind of the popular perception of his game is obviously a great rebounder, which is certainly true, and then a rim protecting big for the most part. I think he's a better offensive player than he is a defensive player. Is that a hot take, or is that super obvious?
I think that I would agree. The only reason, why somebody may say that that's a hot take is just kind of how he impacts the offensive side. Because it's not really stereotypical, prototypical.
I certainly don't mean scoring. I just mean as a connective piece, as a passer, screener, offensive rebounder, of course, like I mentioned. I mean, he's so impactful on that end in so many ways. And he is big and athletic and engaged and pretty smart, too, on the defensive end. But
awesome
I've just
touch.
Yeah.
That really has
the short floaters and stuff. Yeah.
Great.
I've just been super impressed with, what he's done on the offensive end, with the ball at the top of the key, facilitating, then screening, finding guys on cuts, making the right read. He's a really, really good player. So I'm very excited to get him back, and hopefully it's soon. But yeah, that's enough for me on the Thunder. Jace, I think you have the Thunder there as well.
Yep, Thunder at the top for me as well. I am kind of expecting them to make a little bit of separation, at least in the regular season, with Minnesota and Dallas. I kind of view those 3 teams as, kind of the top of the West.
Cream of the crop. Yep, I agree.
The Thunder, I think they had the best offseason of anybody in the NBA. Caruso and Hartenstein being the big pieces and re-signing the role players, like you said. I think at the moment I would say that the Thunder have the best 8 or 9 man rotation in the NBA. I think that their depth is super impressive. SGA, obviously borderline MVP, about as close to consensus first team All-NBA player as you could get. He's just incredible. I agree with what you guys were saying a little bit ago about an MVP level season. He was my pick after last year. I thought that
I'd have voted for him too. Full disclosure.
Thought that he deserved it. And with, all the other pieces we're bringing in, I was kind of thinking, maybe his production will take a tiny step back, open up more for J-Dub and Chet especially. But the more that I've kind of said on that, they could get more, and I think he could still be right around the same.
I think it's the idea of holding 2 truths in your mind simultaneously, right? I do think both those guys are going to get better. And I also think Shay's going to be Shay.
Right. And so another thing, you've said this a few times today, Rhett, about it's just preseason, but his 3-point jumper,
that's new.
Where did that come from?
That's new. And we've been talking about that over the past couple of years since Shea really kind of came into his own as like a superstar level player, that was going to kind of be the next step. If there's even another step to take.
It's just so smooth, so much smoother than it has been. He's making quicker decisions on the perimeter.
Well, the catch and shoot thing is the big thing for me.
Yeah.
Like he's been pretty good at that off the dribble, but the catch and shoot thing is certainly new.
Right. But it's just like the mechanics just look so much cleaner this year. People had said at times, that he's got like a little bit of a hitch in it, like it's a little bit slower of a jump shot. It's just like one movement right into the jumper, like
catch
every
it,
time. Yeah. And that's been kind of like world changing for me.
Pretty cool.
The preseason. Yeah. It's very impressive.
Yeah, and I know this is what you've been waiting for. I know you want to talk about this.
No, I mean, I love Shea, like we all do. I admire. I don't know if there's anyone else that takes such a leap in the offseason every single year. Like the points per game, getting to where it's gotten. Obviously, like how we climbed from like the bottom of the West to the play-in to first place. He's helped us there, and it's like, what else can he get better at? And then we start seeing the three-pointers. And we see that with Dub, and we see that with Chet. Like, it's really exciting, these guys, like, not being complacent with first place. And they're like, we all have room to get better. The addition of Caruso is awesome. Like, not even mentioning Hartenstein right now because we know he's hurt. And thankfully, Dub's injury. Saw him at Dick's Sporting Goods a couple nights ago. He was walking normally.
Good spirits, I hope.
He didn't take the stairs, actually. He took the elevator. But he looked to be walking fine. I think he's back at practice shooting around. Case and Wallace, too. Like, I think he's going to take a major leap.
Love him, yeah.
Like, he already played all 82 games last season. But it seemed
he was a very important player for us in the playoffs, too.
Yes, when he locked down C.J. McCollum. In that, game 2 or something. Like, it seems like he's grown to, like, we got Caruso, Dort, and Kaysen as, like, a three-headed monster. Any of them could start any night. Like, that last preseason game, Thursday night, I don't know why any of our starters, like, were playing. But maybe it was just to see Kaysen, like, in the starting lineup. Like, just to see that how they would all play well together. But shocker, like, no matter what lineup they put out there, everyone plays great together. They've done it for years. And adding in Caruso was the easiest thing in the world, seems like, because he's such a team player.
Yeah, the Caruso fitting in so well I think it's a testament to the style of ball that is played in Oklahoma City, of course, but also a testament to him. Like, he's one of those guys in terms of being like a great, great, great role player. I can't think of a team that wouldn't benefit from adding him, where he wouldn't fit in and contribute on both ends, like, immediately. He's just that kind of guy.
He's a dog.
Yeah. Great. Okay, well, that's it. That's it, everybody. We did all 15 teams in both conference, all 30 teams all together. So there you have it. Those are our picks for the regular season. So with now having kind of our bracket set, final standing wise, what we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to take those standings, going to kind of go through our playoff bracket based on that, talk a little bit about, play in through the playoffs, of course. And then we're also going to talk about end-of-season awards. So, MVP, six-man, et cetera. We're also going to do the conference finals MVPs. We're going to do the finals MVPs. Obviously, we're going to do champions. So, yeah, thank you for watching or listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.